The game of baseball is constantly changing, and the way we rank pitchers has evolved from wins and losses to sabermetric equations that require a scientific calculator. But there's one measurement that everyone understands: MPH.
Got him with a fastball at 101.
Bringing a sense of excitement to the game, Flamethrowers have always been revered for their dangerous velocity. But miles per hour is just one metric when analyzing a pitcher's performance. And though some would argue that you can't compare pitchers from different eras, we did it anyway in our quest to crown baseball's greatest flamethrowers. Kicking off our top 20 list is the seemingly endless supply of young guns in the game today. Everywhere you look, Major League bullpens house a couple pitchers who can light up the gun and get you out of an inning. Once considered a rarity, these 100-mile-per-hour fireballers are flooding the game of baseball.
102.
Individually, many of them are just getting started. But as a group, these flamethrowers are blazing a new path and making a huge impact on how we train, scout, and play the game.
Got him swinging.
But as you'll see, to move up on our list, you need more than just triple-digit velocity. Coming in at number 19, with flowing golden hair and a superhero stature, Noah Syndergaard rules the mound by throwing pitches that vanquish mere mortals. But it wasn't always this way for the flamethrower they call Thor. A late bloomer, Noah barely saw the field his freshman year in high school, but a sudden growth spurt and newfound interest in weightlifting turned the awkward teen into one of the hardest throwing starters in the majors.
Syndergaard strikes again.
A self-proclaimed nerd on the inside, Syndergaard is a beast on the field. During one game, Noah struck out 10 batters, pitched a complete game shutout, and scored the game's only run by hitting one out of the park. It was truly a superhuman performance. 21-year-old fireballer J.R. Richard tied the record for most strikeouts in a major league debut.
Whoa, what a bullet.
In 1980, while wearing the Astros' famous Tequila Sunrise jersey, J.R. was leading the league in wins, strikeouts, and ERA when he was selected to start the All-Star game.
And on the mound from the Houston Astros, James Rodney Richard.
But later that season, while playing catch before a game, J.R. suffered a stroke that ended his major league career. This fireballer burned too hot for his own good and flamed out after 5 seasons.
I threw him very hard all the time. I ran out of bullets, and that was just my career.
Tigers reliever Joel Zumaya consistently lit up the radar gun with his 100-mile-per-hour fastball.
103.
Hall of Fame catcher Ivan Rodriguez called Zoom Zoom the fastest pitcher he ever caught. And during the 2006 ALCS, Zumaya earned his spot on this list by uncorking a 104.8-mile-per-hour fastball, a new record at the time. Flamethrower Jordan Hicks has quickly made a name for himself.
Goodness gracious.
After making his major league debut in 2018, Hicks unleashed a 105.1-mile-per-hour fastball,
105.
tying the official record for the fastest pitch in history.
I felt it, like I can tell, put a little something on it, and then I hear the crowd. I'm like, all right, it's a new record for me.
The 2-2 struck him out.
But Jordan suffered an elbow injury and was sidelined in 2019. Now fully recovered, Hicks made his much-anticipated return to the mound in 2021.
With the first selection of the 2011 first-year player draft, Garrett Cole.
If there is added pressure for a first overall pick, you wouldn't know it by watching Garrett Cole face his first major league hitter.
99 and what a start.
A classic power pitcher who's touched 102, Garrett has been a workhorse on the mound
13 for Garrett Cole tonight.
and elevated his game even higher the past few years.
My first 5-6 years in the big leagues, spin was not talked about. For me, the biggest thing is the understanding of the landscape, what makes you unique.
After increasing the spin rate on several of his pitches, Cole led the league in strikeouts and ERA in 2019.
He becomes the strikeout king for a single season in franchise history.
He then signed the richest pitching contract in history and struck out 13 during his Yankee playoff debut. Coming up, which flamethrower was so wild that his fastball hit a fan who was in line buying a hot dog. When a bell tolled in San Diego, shivers ran down the spines of hitters. With his cap pulled low and his leg kicking high, Trevor Hoffman closed out baseball games better than anyone during his 18-year career. Originally drafted as a shortstop, Hoffman converted to a flame-throwing pitcher.
Being able to throw the ball across the diamond from shortstop and hit the first baseman, I felt like it was going to be pretty easy from 60 feet, 6 inches.
But after a shoulder injury hampered his fastball, Trevor reinvented himself again, developing a devastating changeup.
Got him swinging, ball game over. Hoffman saves number 50.
Hoffman became the first pitcher in history to eclipse 600 saves.
Trevor Hoffman, number 600.
Meanwhile, across town at San Diego State, Tony Gwynn was coaching a young Steven Strasburg.
I think in Steven's case, he's a freak. Every time he steps out on the hill, there's 40 guns pointed towards home plate.
2-2 pitch. Fastball.
Steven dominated collegiate hitters with his 100-mile-per-hour fastball.
Strike 3 called. A no-hitter.
With the potential to be the greatest flamethrower of his generation, Strasburg brought the heat during his rookie season in the major leagues.
Another strikeout, and they just saw number 13.
But an elbow injury threatened to derail his promising career. After surgery, Steven silenced the doubters, bouncing back to light up radar guns again. And in 2019, Strasburg collected 5 postseason wins for the Nationals, en route to winning MVP of the World Series. In 1990, when Randy Myers joined fellow flamethrowers Rob Dibble and Norm Charlton in Cincinnati, the Nasty Boys were born. Making up one of the most feared bullpens in baseball history, the Nasties were known for more than just their blazing fastballs and signature mullets.
And Dibble throws the ball away. It almost looked like Dibble was throwing the ball at the center.
And their take-no-prisoner style of play wasn't limited to the pitcher's mound.
You can see he's going after Sosha. He did not go after the plate. I think Charlton just wanted a piece of it. Yeah, he did.
We are intense on the field. When we step between the lines, it's 110%. It's adrenaline. It's coming right at you.
But that season, the notorious trio were at their nastiest when coming out of the bullpen, combining for 44 saves and 351 strikeouts while helping guide the Reds to the World Series title. There's one name on this list you may not recognize, but he inspired one of the most memorable baseball characters in the movies. Steve Dalkowski, also known as White Lightning, toiled in the minor leagues for 9 years, recording the highest walk ratio of all time. He was so wild that one of his pitches struck a fan who was in line buying a hot dog. But many believe Dalco was also the fastest pitcher in history, punching out more batters per 9 innings than anyone in professional baseball. In 1963, under the guidance of his minor league manager, Earl Weaver, White Lightning finally learned to master his control. But during spring training, something in that magic arm went pop, and Steve Dalkowski was never the same. Sadly, just days earlier, Dalco had made the Orioles' big league roster for the first time. Even though Steve Dalkowski never made it to the show, the legend of White Lightning will live on forever. Speaking of legends, regarded by many as the best pitcher in history, Sandy Koufax threw with an over-the-top arm action, collecting 4 no-hitters and 4 World Series titles with the Dodgers.
He did it. Sandy Koufax.
Most remembered for his curveball, Sandy's fastball was equally feared by hitters. Koufax remains one of a handful of pitchers to retire with more career strikeouts than innings pitched. These days, most flamethrowers come out of the bullpen, but Justin Verlander is part of a dying breed, a power pitcher who starts and finishes his games. Of all active pitchers, Verlander has more complete games than anyone. His four-seam fastball regularly touches triple digits.
100. miles an hour.
And he's able to maintain that velocity throughout the game.
Swing and a miss, he struck him out.
Verlander has also developed several devastating off-speed pitches.
Is he nasty or what?
In addition to winning Rookie of the Year in 2006, Justin has taken home 2 Cy Young Awards, a League MVP award, and tossed 3 no-hitters.
No-hitter for Justin Verlander.
You know, it's a special moment. Some of the guys I idolize, the list of guys that thrown 3 instead of 2 gets pretty small.
Facing elimination in Game 6 of the 2017 ALCS, Justin was at his best, shutting down the Yankees and leading the Astros to claim their first World Series title. Coming up, which flamethrower was so dominant that Major League Baseball had to change the rules? Baseball in the 70s welcomed several changes to the game, including the designated hitter and the advent of the closer, sometimes called firemen. These flame-throwing pitchers specialized in preserving the win and often brought big personalities and facial hair to the mound. One of the most iconic was the Goose, Rich Gossage, possessing an unruly mustache and a 100-mile-per-hour fastball that terrorized hitters. Gossage was a menace on the mound.
The first thing that old hitters had to think about is I might have to move my feet here or duck a fastball. If you don't make those hitters as uncomfortable as you can possibly make them, you're going to be doing something else.
Oh, he thought he was hit. Holy cow.
Unlike the typical one-inning-and-done closers of today, Gossage often pitched the final 2 or 3 innings of a game and earned 124 wins, in addition to 310 career saves. Most famous for his years on the Yankees, the Goose's outspokenness and gruff demeanor ruffled some feathers, and he ended up pitching for 9 different major league clubs. More than 100 years ago, the original flamethrower, Walter Johnson, made his major league pitching debut against Ty Cobb and the Detroit Tigers. After the game, Cobb said his fastball looked about the size of a watermelon seed. Sir Walter threw harder than anyone else in his era, and once the big train got rolling, he could not be stopped. Walter's 417 wins and 110 career shutouts are still tops in the modern baseball era. From the big train to the rocket, Roger Clemens was another power pitcher with plenty of fuel in the tank.
Swung and a miss, he struck him out.
Armed with an explosive fastball, Clemens overpowered hitters, striking out 20 batters in a single game.
A new record. Clemens has set a major league record for strikeouts in a game.
10 years later, he did it again.
Clemens is struck out the side.
A fierce competitor with a fiery attitude, Clemens wasn't afraid to unleash one high and tight.
Now another one up and in to Cabrera.
One of the most dominant pitchers of his era, the Rocket sits third on the all-time strikeouts list.
Strikeout number 4,000. And Roger Clemens has just joined an exclusive fraternity.
And won an unprecedented 7 Cy Young Awards. Speaking of unprecedented performances, the next flamethrower was so dominant that the rules of the game needed to be reevaluated. In 1968, Bob Gibson recorded 13 shutouts and owned a 1.12 ERA, the lowest in the live ball era. Bullet Bob swept the awards categories, winning the Cy Young, League MVP, and Pitching's Triple Crown. Gibby was so dominant that year that the following season, Major League Baseball lowered the pitcher's mound and shrunk the strike zone. He was so good that they permanently changed the rules. A 9-time All-Star and first ballot Hall of Famer, Bob tormented hitters with his blazing fastball and possessed one of the nastiest sliders of all time. Feared throughout the league for his intense competitive nature, Bob wasn't afraid to put one in your ear if you crossed one of his teammates.
Well, the only time I actually throw a knockdown pitch is when a hitter on my team is either hit or knocked down on purpose.
Gibson won 2 titles with St. Louis, but may be remembered most for 1968, the year his Cardinals lost the World Series. To this day, the rule changes made after that season are known as the Gibson rules. As a youngster pitching for the Cuban national team, Aroldis Chapman was recognized by scouts around the world for his velocity.
There's so much secrecy, and the veil gets lifted during this WBC and international ball about Cuban ball players.
So when the Cuban missile defected to the U.S., everyone wanted to see how his talent would translate.
They waited standing to see Chapman come out of the bullpen. 22-year-old Cuban had never been to the United States. Fastball strike. Welcome to the major leagues and welcome to Cincinnati.
Chapman developed into one of the hardest throwers in baseball, and fans everywhere showed up to get a glimpse of his legendary fastball.
Triple digit.
The question on everyone's mind was,
102 miles per hour.
How much faster could Aroldis throw?
105. Never seen anything like it. That one at 106. That would be a new record. Hardest pitch ever thrown.
Now more than a decade removed from his major league debut, the Cuban Flamethrower still ranks near the top in average pitch velocity and strikeout percentage.
Got him! 102 miles an hour. Straight gas from Chapman.
Coming up, from one flamethrower to another, the advice that saved a pitching career. In 1936, while most high school students were enjoying their summer vacation, 17-year-old Bob Feller recorded 15 strikeouts while earning the win in his major league debut. 3 weeks later, the heater from Van Meter fanned 17, tying the all-time record for most strikeouts in a single game. All this before his senior year of high school. Several speed tests were commissioned throughout Feller's career. The first pitted his fastball against a speeding motorcycle. Wearing dress shoes and a tie, Feller threw off the pavement, giving his opponent a big head start, and still managed to beat the motorcycle to the finish line.
That's plenty fast.
Another test enlisted Army Ordnance equipment to measure the ball's velocity as Feller's fastball crossed home plate. Adjusted for today's standards, Rapid Robert may have been the fastest ever. Regardless of Feller's actual velocity, Joe DiMaggio said, "I don't think anyone's ever going to throw a ball faster." And Ted Williams confided that he would start thinking about Feller 3 days before he would have to face him. From throwing 3 no-hitters and 12 one-hitters, Feller's pitching achievements are many, but perhaps his greatest moment came as a member of the Cleveland Indians in 1948, the last time the Tribe won the World Series. For 6'10" pitcher Randy Johnson, harnessing his long arms and legs proved to be a tall order. In 1992, Randy was leading the league in walks and hit batsmen when Nolan Ryan suggested that he land on the ball of his foot during his delivery. Johnson made the adjustment, and the big unit was reborn. One of the tallest pitchers of all time, and possessing a sidearm fastball that could eclipse 100 miles per hour, Randy became a strikeout machine.
Randy Johnson with the first Mariner no-hitter in history.
Over the course of his career, Johnson led the league in punch-outs 9 times.
I mean, he just blew it right by him.
And tied the record for strikeouts in a 9-inning game.
20.
As Randy's legend grew, opposing hitters would think twice before stepping into the batter's box.
Would you say his heart is palpitating a bit?
And after an unlucky bird crossed paths with a Johnson fastball, his legend grew even bigger.
But everybody that wants to talk about baseball first talks about the bird. It's crazy. I was considered a bird killer.
Johnson's 3 wins during the 2001 World Series is tied for the most in history and helped bring a championship to Arizona for the first time. And in 2004, when Randy struck out the final batter of a game against the Braves, he became the oldest pitcher in history to achieve perfection.
Randy Johnson, at 40 years young, has thrown a perfect game.
When he hung up his spikes for the last time, the big unit had amassed 5 Cy Young Awards and tallied more than 4,800 strikeouts. Second all time, behind the man Randy considers his mentor. The flamethrower at the top of this list wasn't the biggest or the flashiest, but he may have been the toughest. Nolan Ryan threw harder for longer than any other pitcher, making 773 starts on the mound.
Got him swinging.
Known for its blazing fastball, Nolan threw his first no-hitter at the age of 26 and fired his record 7th no-hitter at 44 years young.
That's it! Number 7 is in the books. The remarkable Ryan has done it again.
Ryan seemed to give max effort on every pitch, as evidenced by his trademark grunt. And his stamina was legendary, once throwing 235 pitches in a single game. Now the big flamethrower question. How fast could Nolan Ryan throw?
Wow, is he throwing hard. Holy cow, what smoke.
In 1974, some electronics experts set up an infrared radar in the press box, hoping to record the first velocity reading during a major league game. Ryan seemed to be getting stronger as the game went on. And then this happened in the ninth.
Nolan Ryan, officially, is the fastest pitcher.
That pitch was measured 10 feet in front of home plate, so most experts believe that pitch would have registered 108.5 miles per hour. Though some doubt the accuracy of this rudimentary radar gun, no one can dispute that Ryan threw heat. After 27 years in the big leagues, at the age of 46, Nolan's final fastball clocked 98 miles per hour.
Got him swinging.
To put it bluntly, you didn't mess with the Ryan Express. After counting down the top 20 flamethrowers in history, one thing we can all agree on is that today, more pitchers are throwing 100-mile-per-hour fastballs than ever before. And while average pitch velocity has ticked upwards the past decade, we may never know the limit to just how fast someone can throw a baseball. But one thing is for certain, one of the young guns in the game today is certain to shake things up the next time we count down baseball's greatest flamethrowers.